The courts have powers to punish for contempt, right? The power vests in the court. Contempt in the face of the court or contempt outside court. If the tweets Ahmed made in the eyes of the Supreme Court justices constituted acts of contempt, what we are simply saying, initiate proceedings against him. He does not lose his right to a fair hearing because he tweeted. Even if today you saw someone directly shooting another to death, the answer is not for the judge to take a knife and stab him or hang the person. The answer is for the matter to be taken before a court and the suspect taken through a due process. Is found guilty, sanction is imposed. Today it's Ahmed Nasir being told you cannot appear before this court, together with all his associates and partners. Tomorrow the court may decide maybe Willis, I don't like his hair. Why is he growing a grey beard? We are barring him from coming to this court. The next day, it will be another lawyer. Why is he always dressed in baggy shorts, suits? We don't like his face. You can't go. That is now the root of tyranny. And when a tyrant shows you their claws, you must fight back quickly. It's in the interest of justice that decision of the Supreme Court be recalled. And even if you disagree with Ahmed Nasir, as I said, you may disagree with him. You may disagree with what he says. But even the devil is promised by God that in judgment day, on the judgment day, everybody will be given a hearing. Even the devil is entitled to a fair hearing when the judgment day comes. He will be heard and the charges against him will be read to him. And then judgment will be passed. He is not entitled to mob lynching. The Supreme Court as the highest court in the land. It is these little things that you're seeing that will lead to a revolution in this country, a people's revolution. Because then you've suspended the law. The institutions which are set up to be the superintendents of the law are now acting outside the law. Supreme Court is saying we can do anything we want. President is saying I'll disobey court orders. I'll only choose the ones to obey. So what do you think will be the reaction of the people? Is this not a recipe for revolution? In light of what we are going through as a country. To me, this country is now getting ripe for a revolution at this rate. When institutions are becoming rogue, led by the president saying I disobey court orders, to now Supreme Court, we will defend the independence of the judiciary, but also fight judicial tyranny.
Hello, a very good day to you, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of the Candid Talk here on Herman Manyora's YouTube channel. Such a pleasure to always have you on board. And of course, my name is Evans Okinyi. I want to, as always, bring you up to date with comprehensive analysis of all that is taking place within this country and, of course, across the borders. Remember, this is your go-to point on matters, public governance, policies, and everything that is taking place in our country, and we want to make these conversations as simple as possible so that you may be able to understand what is taking place here. As a common man, welcome to the show. And who is here? Of course, Wakili Willis Otieno has been with us and is still with us here to help us understand these things that are taking place within. Wakili, how are you?
Fine, thank you. Yes.
Still sticking to the corridors of justice in this country. The Supreme Court delivered some sort of a landmark ruling that has actually surprised a number of people. Out of nowhere, they've decided to bar, of course, Senior Counsel Ahmed Nasir and his entire law firm from ever stepping foot into the Supreme Court, rather its premises therein. I want us to understand this. What is it that is taking place? What is the background of this? What is the meaning of such kind of a ruling? Is it actually the mandate of the Supreme Court to make such kind of judgments that would actually bar a lawyer from getting into the Supreme Court? Were those grounds actually necessary? Were they enough grounds for them to make such kind of a decision?
You know, the first step is that the Supreme Court seems to have been iked by certain tweets which Ahmed Nasir has been tweeting over the years. And I think they reached a breaking point. They've shown us they're also human at the end of the day. And in showing their human fallibility, they decided to unanimously and arbitrarily to disbar Ahmed Nasir and his entire law firm of over 30 lawyers from practicing in that court. Now, this conduct brings to fore so many things. Number one, this is a very appalling decision coming from a Supreme Court. Because first, in which proceedings was this decision made? Because a court needs to be moved. By moving a court, I mean, there must have been a file. Maybe X versus Ahmed Nasir. And then Ahmed Nasir is entitled to a fair hearing. You may not like him, but he's not a human being. Entitled to the full fundamental rights in the Constitution. One of them, chief amongst them, is the right to a fair hearing. So they should have told him, Ahmed Nasir, Senior Counsel, these are the allegations against you. We want to cite you for contempt. This is what you did. Then Ahmed appears before them and is told the allegations against him. He makes his defense, and they can make a ruling. But in this particular instance, no such proceedings were. I don't even think Ahmed was aware that his conduct was being discussed by the Supreme Court justices. He just saw a communique suspending him. I mean, not even permanently barring him. So not even a suspension. So even where does the Supreme Court get the powers? Which law enables the Supreme Court of Kenya to permanently bar an advocate from appearing before it? This is tyranny. This is tyranny. And we must call out tyranny when we see it. The court cannot possess such kind of a power. Because remember, courts are meant to be independent arbiters. A litigant is entitled to an advocate of his or her choice. If my choice of advocate is Ahmed Nasir and you don't like his face, you must learn to live with it. Ahmed Nasir, when he goes to court, he's not representing himself. He's representing his client. It's the client's interests that is taking before court.
Okay.
And I have a right to an advocate of my choice. That's the first level. The second level, poor associates and partners of Ahmed Nasir. What wrong did they do? Some of them may not even be on Twitter, may not even have seen these tweets. Now, just because you practice in the same law firm with Ahmed Nasir, you are permanently barred from accessing the Supreme Court of Kenya. I mean, let's be serious. There is no difference between what this court is doing and Bokasa's courts in Central African Republic. This is now becoming a banana republic.
But then make me understand this. In the first place, you've said here that there was no hearing.
Yes.
And of course, Ahmed Nasir was not even informed of what was taking place there. But then make us understand this practically. Here we are. Ahmed Nasir, of course, Kenyans on Twitter have seen the kind of tweets that he has been tweeting, which, of course, the Supreme Court may consider as insults maybe to them. But then, so what do you expect now? This is the apex court of the land. What could they do?
You see, what I'm telling you is very simple. The courts have powers to punish for contempt. Right? The power vests in the court. Contempt in the face of the court or contempt outside court. If the tweets Ahmed made in the eyes of the Supreme Court justices constituted acts of contempt, what we are simply saying, initiate proceedings against him. He does not lose his right to a fair hearing because he tweeted. Even if today you saw someone directly shooting another to death, the answer is not for the judge to take a knife and stab him or hang the person. The answer is for the matter to be taken before a court and the suspect taken through a due process. Is found guilty, sanction is imposed. What the Supreme Court is doing is akin to a judge who was walking on the street and saw somebody shouting, thief, 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 and grabbed the one who was running and start castrating them. That you're a thief, now I'm meting ultimate penalty. Not knowing, and knowing fully well that there is no penalty prescribed in law of castration to a thief. Because even for a thief, the penalty is prescribed in law, imprisonment for a term. But it says no, because I've seen you being chased on the street, you're a thief, I'm castrating you. Supreme Court Says, Ahmed, you've been tweeting, we've read your tweets. You're not allowed to disparage the integrity of the court. We are going to bar you permanently from accessing this court. Even if you look at the Supreme Court Act and the regulations, the penalty for somebody, an advocate who's been found, the power that the court has, is can only suspend somebody from practicing in that court for up to 18 months. It's not permanent, but it's also to that person, not his associates. Here, they are condemning and had legal practitioners in that law firm.
So, okay. So you're saying that the due process wasn't followed?
It is about the due process, about the content or the merits of what Ahmed Nasir said. That can only be established in a due process. Take Ahmed to court, charge him for contempt, find him liable and punish him as you want. But follow the law.
This is the apex court of the land. What does the law say?
Yes, even the apex court of the land. So if the apex court of the land has decided to become a dictator, let them tell us. Because today, it is Ahmed Nasir, right? What will stop them from burying me tomorrow? What will stop them? Because there's no standards.
And that is where my question actually comes in. You talked of they should actually initiate proceedings against him.
Yes.
So where does that happen?
They can do it. They can do it in their court, or it can be done in the High Court, because the court has the power to punish for contempt committed against it, as a Supreme Court. They can do it there.
Okay.
It can be done before the Supreme Court, and they'll decide. If they have personal interest in the matter, then they can try him for contempt before a High Court judge. But what they're doing is they're becoming tyrants. And this is absurd, because as I'm saying, today it's Ahmed Nasir being told you cannot appear before this court, together with all his associates and partners. Tomorrow, the court may decide, maybe Willis, I don't like his hair. Why is he growing a gray beard? We are barring him from coming to this court. The next day, it will be another lawyer. Why is he always dressed in baggy shorts, suits? We don't like his face. You can't go. That is now the root of tyranny. And when a tyrant shows you their claws, you must fight back quickly. It's in the interest of justice that decision of the Supreme Court be recalled. And if indeed there be any basis to disbar Ahmed Nasir, just follow the law.
Okay.
That's all we're asking. Just follow the law and deal with him like you deal with any other case. But they don't have the power to act.
Okay.
And if you ask even any of those justices, cite to us where you derive the power to bar an advocate and his associates from practicing before you. Show us that power. They'll not show you.
Okay, then let's also look at it from this other angle. Now, looking at the content of this entire ruling that the Apex Court of the Land made, look at the kind of statements that Ahmed Nasir has actually been making. Is it in order for him to make those statements, or my question would be, if at all he's got any allegations, or rather he's got any proof of whatever is taking place within the Supreme Court or all these other judges that he's calling corrupt and so on and so forth, why wouldn't he actually follow the due process as well?
I agree. Ahmed Nasir has made wild allegations against judicial officers and judiciary. That is his right. He can say whatever he wants to say. But he has never filed an application before the JSC for removal of any judge.
Okay.
At least that I'm aware of. I'm not aware of any petition he ever filed. So nothing has been acted upon. But I'm also aware that somebody may be uncomfortable because of Ahmed Nasir making wild allegations without following the due process of the law to deal with those allegations. That's okay. But I disagree that to deal with Ahmed Nasir's conduct is for the court to also now become rogue and ignore the law and then disbar him. If you find that the allegations Ahmed has made are disparaging the standing of the court in the eyes of the public, cite him for contempt. Take him through a process of hearing. Then once you're done with that, penalize him. Give him the appropriate sanction. But what the Supreme Court has done is they have put aside that entire due process. They've met Ahmed, it's like they met Ahmed Nasir on the streets of Nairobi and they're beating him mob justice proper. These are mob justice, lynching. One of the justices is holding a knife, another one is holding a tire, another one is holding fuel. Work a tire. Ban this man. That's what they're doing to him. They are forgetting the justice of the law. They are supposed to take him into a courtroom. Take him through a due process of the law. Give him a fair hearing. Then punish him in accordance with the sanction that the law prescribes. There is nowhere in the law that a sanction of permanently barring an advocate and his associates from practicing in any particular court applies. There is no such sanction. There is no such sanction. There is nowhere Kenyans have ever said that a court can decide to permanently bar Willis Otieno from practicing in its court. And anybody who is employed in the law firm of Otieno Gole, or my partners in Otieno Gole. No court has that power. That's what they have just done. It's synonymous, as I'm saying, with a judge who was walking on the streets, saw a mob justice, and now he's carrying a machete, he's carrying a tire, he's carrying fuel. And he's also the one who is participating in the lynching of the so-called thief. Instead of asking for this thief to be taken through the due process of the law. And even if you disagree with Ahmed Nasir, as I said, you may disagree with him. You may disagree with what he says. But even the devil is promised by God that in the judgment day, on the judgment day, everybody will be given a hearing. Even the devil is entitled to a fair hearing when the judgment day comes. He will be heard and the charges against him will be read to him. And then judgment will be passed. He is not entitled to mob lynching. The Supreme Court, as the highest court in the land, should not be the first one to act in this particular manner. This was a judicial overreach, and we must call it out. We must say no. Because the tyranny knows no boundaries.
Now, what options does Ahmed Nasir have right now? Can he actually petition the kind of ruling that the Supreme Court...
You know, sometimes when institutions fail, when in 1982, Moi decided to also make this country a one-party state. When now you have no other place you can go to, you're pushing people to the end. What is their recourse? Sovereignty vests in the people. It is these little things that you're seeing that will lead to a revolution in this country, a people's revolution. Because then you suspended the law. The institutions which are set up to be the superintendents of the law are now acting outside the law. Supreme Court is saying we can do anything we want. President is saying I'll disobey court orders. I'll only choose the ones to obey. So what do you think will be the reaction of the people? Is this not a recipe for revolution? In light of what we are going through as a country. To me, this country is now getting ripe for a revolution at this rate. When institutions are becoming rogue, led by the president saying I disobey court orders, to now Supreme Court saying we can chase away an advocate at whim from practicing before us without even giving him a hearing, to Parliament saying we'll conduct public participation despite a court order. These are the three organs of government. Each of them in these last 10 days have shown us maajabu. The last 10 days, all the three organs of government have all told the people of Kenya, you can go to hell. We don't care about the rule of law. That's a recipe for revolution. These are the ingredients that when they accumulate, cumulatively, nations end up having revolutions. So if they're not careful, as you ask me, what will Ahmed Nasir do? I mean, the Supreme Court is the last stage in the judicial process. It has dealt with him the way it has dealt with him. What option does he have? So of course a revolution. To deal, he has to revolt against that court.
He
can't go to any high court. He can only revolt against that court. Because he can't go to the high court. He can't go to the court of appeal. He can only revolt against that court. So they're inviting him to revolt. Because it means they've suspended the due process of the law, as Ahmed knows, as I know. So the next thing is to revolt against that court for him. To be a revolution against the Supreme Court for Ahmed.
How possible is that?
How possible? Revolutions can be started by anyone.
And this is why we are asking, can those orders be quashed?
By who? Who can quash them? Unless that court itself recalls them. You can't go to, I'm telling you, you can't go to the High Court. You can't go to the Court of Appeal. It's the Supreme Court. So what are you even challenging? Can a High Court judge say that the matter of Ahmed Nasir versus the 7 Supreme Court judges? No.
That's impossible.
I mean, it's not possible. That's what I'm saying. When everything else fails, when you push people to a corner, that's when there's a revolt. So you are going to see Ahmed Nasir, in his own way, is going to be leading a revolution against the Supreme Court, even on his online platform.
Okay.
You will see a revolution to him because there's no other recourse he has. That's a revolution. Even if it's on X, Twitter. It will be a revolution of his against that court. And he will rally people against that court across the country on his platform. It's a revolution on its own kind.
But does the ruling stand? Does it abide?
No. That's the point I'm telling you. The ruling will stand, but Ahmed will also have a response. He's going to lead a revolution against that court. He's going to throw stones at that court. He's going to malign them. He's going to expose that, because now he has no audience. That will be a revolution of its own kind.
Will it surface at the end of the day? Will it help him anyway? Because I'm still looking at what option does a lawyer definitely have when he finds himself or herself in such kind of a scenario.
But Okenyi, you're just refusing to understand me. I'm telling you, the Supreme Court is the last batch.
I understand.
The Supreme Court, beyond Supreme, it's just like asking, what option did Raila have after the 2022 petition?
Of course, he had no.
He couldn't appeal anywhere. It ends there. So the next thing was he went to the people. Right? He went to the people. So even Ahmed Nasir is at the apex on the question of judicial accountability. That's the topmost court.
Okay.
So he'll go to the people. And you're going to see him on his tweet. I'm telling you, on the options available to him. You are going to see a very active Twitter handle by Ahmed Nasir.
But this means that as long as that order has not been quashed by the very court, then he still cannot appear.
He will not appear. That one is done. Unless you remove that court.
And then the question here now comes: Does that ruling have any kind of impact or rather ripple effect on these other lower courts?
That's the question that even legal practitioners are asking. If the highest court has barred you from appearing before it, why should other courts give you audience? Yeah.
Because actually, if at all they're supposed to give you, and then you're supposed to challenge this case
all the way to Supreme. Yeah, that's the question that even us lawyers are grappling with. Why should a magistrate give Ahmed Nasir audience if the magistrate is bound by a decision of the Supreme Court? Yeah. So we are going to see Majabu in the coming days. Because I can argue before a court that why are you listening to Ahmed Nasir?
And yet he's not supposed
The court has found him guilty of contempt and even denied him audience in its court. So can you also adopt similar practice and buy him?
Okay. And what does this actually mean to the freedom of expression? And
of course,
that?
That's why
Where
I say,
do we draw the line?
That's why I say that the court is becoming a tyrant.
Okay.
And if you don't agree with what someone says, there are legal avenues of dealing with it.
Okay.
And the legal avenues of dealing with it, as I've said, if it's a question that disparages the standing of the court, then allow the contempt proceedings to be initiated and deal with it. But ultimately, you must also measure it against what you're calling the freedom of expression.
Okay.
The right to express yourself. So that the fair comment, if it was a fair comment that can be substantiated, then the contempt proceedings will also collapse. It will be said that was a fair comment. So it protects both the individual and the institution.
Okay.
Mob justice will never deliver that. A tyrant in the name of a Supreme Court that becomes a tyrant will also never achieve that. We are now dealing with judicial tyranny. And as I said, we will defend the independence of the judiciary, but also fight judicial tyranny.
Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is it from Wakili Willis Otieno here. Definitely tell us what you think about the kind of fate that has befell senior counsel, the Grand Mullah himself, Ahmed Nasir Abdullahi therein. Know very well that this is your go-to point on matters affecting every person in this country. And of course, we are up to date. We'll actually inform you of everything taking place in this country and make you understand them, just as we've done here. Anyway, on this conversation, tell us what you think about what we've just talked about here. And of course, if at all you're watching us for the first time, kindly do subscribe to our channel here. And do not fail to tune into some of our programs. Remember, Jadel Kabiro is always here, as well as Richard Mwenja. From my end, allow me to stop the conversation at this time till we meet again. Thank you for watching and for listening to us. My name is Evans Okenyi.